This is It's Not in the Syllabus podcast, the how-tos of a student beyond classroom walls. This is the podcast where you, yes you, get to learn what they don't teach you at school and ace that test called life, or at least get a passing grade and get by. It's Not in the Syllabus is a podcast brought to you by the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, together with the Student Association, where we feature stories by the students and for the students. Join us as we discover life lessons you'll surely need. Hello everyone, welcome to another, specifically the 10th episode of It's Not in the Syllabus podcast. So we will be talking about staying healthy in an unhealthy environment. And this is part of our series for this month, which is on balancing life, to start a good year. So we have here a very special guest. Hello, Kuya RJ.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We are so privileged to have you here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And if you will allow me, I would like to introduce a little bit about you to our audience.
Sure.
Okay, so Kuya RJ, as I call him, is Robert John Almocera. So he's a current research assistant at the APRC, that's Asia Pacific Research Center. And he's also the secretary of the Ethics Review Board here at IAS. And some may have not known, but he is actually a licensed psychometrician and is currently completing his PhD in educational psychology with an emphasis in quantitative methodology at De La Salle University in Manila. Really heavy stuff. But what we will really specifically talk about has something to do with his hobbies and interests. So he actually sometimes do triathlons and ultra marathons. So
Sometimes, yes.
sometimes, emphasis on sometimes. Yeah. And another fun fact is that Kuya RJ came from a family of medical professionals. Somehow, and he's also into allied health. But what really inspired us to invite him here today to talk about this topic is because we see him active, maybe not as often as before, but I've been really inspired at how you keep an active life, despite juggling work, studies, and even family life. So, yeah, I think that's what we would really like to go into for today.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me, Kim. Before we start, can I probably give a disclaimer?
Sure.
While I am a mental health professional, I'm not an expert in holistic health or physical health. So what I will be discussing is my own personal perspective, and it should not be taken as medical or professional advice.
Yes.
Further, as I will be talking about personal experiences and perspectives, I am not in any way representing any of the institutions that I am affiliated with. So
Yes.
with that out of the way, we can begin.
All right. So, yes, thank you for sharing that. Very important. We do hope to inspire our audience, from this conversation. So, you've been staying here in IAS, and since you also studied in an Adventist institution, both lives. And how were you able to, maintain a healthy lifestyle, and if there were any struggles that you faced during that period?
Okay. Yeah, personally, it really is a struggle to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I do have my personal concerns. I've also just when you guys messaged me about inviting me here, I actually surveyed some of my friends
Oh, okay.
from around the campus and
Okay.
my colleagues at La Salle, and I asked them, what would be the barriers to, physical health? What would be the concerns that you have in maintaining your health? And then they mentioned a lot of things,
Okay.
such as personal. Well, I grouped them down into personal and social factors,
Okay.
and I think this also represents the extant literature that we have in the professional field. So, personal and social factors. Personally, one of the biggest barriers or one of the biggest concerns I have is the time.
Yes.
It's really hard to find time to maintain everything, to balance everything, especially if you have multiple roles, you have multiple responsibilities as students, as employees,
Parents.
your parents also, and you have your spouses. So it is quite difficult to find time to balance everything.
It sounds like an excuse, but it's a real problem, right? Or is it, or do you think it's just a management problem?
I wouldn't say it's an excuse. I
Okay.
think it's more appropriate to to frame it as something that we really have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
We have, time is limited. We have 24
It's
hours a day.
inevitable, limited resource.
And we have this much to do. So I don't think it's really an excuse, but it's really something that we have to live with, and we have to work our way around. Yes.
That's right. Okay, I'm really curious. What are the other factors aside from time that you found out from your colleagues?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So one would be skills. For example, learning how to cook healthy
Okay.
food.
Okay.
That's something that
True.
you don't have a problem with.
I wish I can say that, but I struggle.
And some other, like,
Yeah.
for example, knowledge of health-related
Yes.
behaviors. That would be some of the more personal things, the more social things that I've categorized were our availability of healthy options, and things such as social norms. And
Yeah.
I personally would want to talk about social norms
Okay.
as a
Yeah.
as a social
Before
factor.
you go there, it's interesting when you mentioned skills, because at the depth of information that we can get, from the internet, I still feel like it boils down to time, I mean, because you can still, you can simply look up tutorials,
That's
like
true.
we can learn it, but again, time.
Yes.
But yeah.
Skills need time for you to
Build,
build
yeah.
them, to improve them. So that's a good point.
Mhm.
We probably won't know how to cook efficiently or cook good food if we don't have the time to practice them.
Yes,
That's a good point.
Okay, so yes, continue about social norms.
Yeah. So one of the things that stood out to me were social norms. For example, my colleagues in Manila, they, it's not. They would have a hard time saying no to social functions that involve, let's say drinking or
Parties.
partying. Yeah. So those are social norms that some people have to meet. Fortunately for us here at IAS, we have more positive social norms. And when I say social norms, it's the things that we see around campus. For
Yeah.
example, every morning we see people doing exercises, the Morning
Yeah.
Star.
That's true.
I think social norms aren't just explicit, they're implicit, such as, seeing people playing in the gym. It kind of sets a tone for what a social norm is.
So the environment here is actually more conducive for us to practice this lifestyle from what we see around.
You could say that. I mean, I probably wouldn't play badminton if, my friends
We're
don't
not
play.
exposed to. That's true.
My friends don't play
Yes.
badminton, or my sister doesn't play badminton. I wouldn't probably, start playing badminton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that this is also why, gym subscriptions, they all work in the Philippines, right?
That's true.
Even this, I used to, I tried to use this app. It's called Rebel. So it's by Erwan and Nico. And because, it's promoted by celebrities, and then you get to do it with friends, with other people, that builds community in a sense for
Yes.
you to be able to do the same social activity, but in a healthy way,
That's
which
true.
is exercising.
Talking about exercise, we use a different app called Strava.
Oh, okay.
So it's an app for endurance sports, like biking.
Is that for
running.
both Apple and Android?
Yes, it's available on Apple and Android. It's available also on your web browser. I use it, and I know some people here use it. Yeah.
So what's the difference between, like, I have Apple Health on my phone, and Androids already have an inbuilt health app? What's the difference?
Strava has a social aspect to it.
Oh,
So it's like a
okay.
social network. So you see what your friends are doing.
So there's a competitive component.
And then there are challenges where you have to ride 100 kilometers, or you have to complete 1,250 kilometers in 1 month. And you see, for example, I see Dr. Ike Mueller. He rides almost every day. So I see, I should also probably ride every day.
Oh, okay. I see. I mean, that's a great way to motivate.
So
Yeah.
I see people riding around. I see people playing around. Playing with, playing sports. it kind of inspires me to do the same thing.
Oh, that's really great. And we've dwelt more of the physical aspect of living a healthy lifestyle, but how would you actually define a healthy person? Is it really just physical?
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, this is something that has been pushed out. This is an idea that has been pushed out by the WHO. We also have our own biblical perspective to it. And I think this is something that we can always emphasize, that health is not just about physical health. In the Bible, in Luke 2 chapter 50, Luke 2 verse 52, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. So it gives us that idea that health is not just physical health. It's also at a core of our Adventist philosophy that the development of human beings involves four aspects.
And
that's
those are the?
social, physical, spiritual, and did I say physical?
Yes.
Social, mental.
Mental. Yes, we cannot
So,
forget that.
There has to be a holistic
Approach to it.
view of health, and it's important for us to remember that, because later on, if we talk about ecological models, if we talk about social factors, they all combine together.
Yes,
they all come together.
And yeah, they're interrelated. When your physical is down, then that affects your social, mental, and even spiritual, maybe.
That's true. I regularly listen to this podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Okay.
And one of the key points that he always says is sleep is the basis is one of the basis for physical and mental health. So
wow.
that's probably something that we can that you can invite someone to talk about in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's also a struggle for a lot of students here. I mean, students in general, not just here. Sleep. And it's the most obvious things, but also the thing that we neglect the most, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for bringing that out. So in that, we've defined what a healthy person actually means. And what do you think in terms of the environment? What's the role or the importance that environment plays in this topic? Is it even something we should consider, or?
Okay, yeah. Is it something that we should consider? I think yes, we should. First of all, remember, just a cursory look through the extant literature on health. They will always say there will always be social factors and interpersonal factors. I took a look at the literature. I'm not from public health, but I took a look at the literature, and there are ecological models. So ecological models are models which include interpersonal factors, which grow out from the person, including social and community factors, all the way up to public policy. So these ecological models suggest and show us that there are factors that interrelate with each other. So I think it is an important thing. I also, as I mentioned, I interviewed my friends. They always talk about personal and social factors, including social norms.
So in that sense, so we've established that it is important and it affects a person when it comes to maintaining such lifestyle. So what happens now if you are, I mean, we are privileged to be staying here at IAS, where you mentioned it's a little bit more conducive just because, we see people practicing the healthy lifestyle. But what if you are placed in a location that you can't really do anything about it, because that's really what environment does, right? It's surrounding you and you have no control over it. So what can you do if it's the opposite?
Okay. Yeah. So that's a good point that you're raising. The environment plays a role, but it does not dictate what we do.
Yes.
So there is still that personal volition. There's that autonomy to do what we want to do in terms of health-related behaviors. That's why I think most public health research, they always study knowledge, skills, and attitude towards health behaviors, and that's why they study those things. Because even if we are placed in certain environments, it's still up to us.
Yeah.
We still have that volition, that autonomy to make decisions.
I think we have to repeat that. It's up to us. Yeah.
It's up to us.
Okay, so in that case, do you have any tips on how one can stay active? We've actually had a podcast episode on food preparation and just
Yes, I did listen to that too.
yeah, yeah, very, very informative. So, yeah, in terms of just staying active and prioritizing your health, physical, mental, spiritual, social.
Okay. When you sent me the questions,
Mhm.
three things came to mind.
Okay.
Number one is everyone starts somewhere.
Okay.
So this is something that I've learned from a friend when I was still in elementary,
Mm.
because we were learning how to
Mhm.
play certain ball games
Uh-huh.
or computer games,
Mhm.
and he always told me, everyone starts somewhere.
Hmm. I think I've seen a similar quote at the graduate school room. Like every expert starts with the first step, small step.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
everyone starts as a beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There.
So everyone starts somewhere. I remember when I started running back in
Mm.
2008, the only thing that I can do is run one round
Mm-hmm.
around the campus.
Mm-hmm.
By 2010, I was racing at the age group levels.
Wow.
But that was only short distance.
Mhm.
And then later on, it developed into triathlons and to ultramarathons. I did a 50-kilometer run around Mactan Island.
Wow.
I mean, you don't start that. You don't start
Exactly.
doing that on day one.
Exactly.
You start.
Exactly.
Everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah. So what actually inspired you to go into that? Maybe like to run, do triathlons. I mean, how did it came
Oh,
up? Yeah.
It helps me zone out.
Oh, okay.
You run, you kind of forget a lot of things, and sometimes it also gives me some good ideas in regards to what I'm actually studying at the moment.
Okay. So it was a means of break for you. Like it was a
Yes.
breather, in the midst of everything that's going around. Yeah, because sometimes it's that first step that is the hardest
That's
for a
true.
lot of people.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, go ahead with your second point.
Second one is assess your goals
Mhm.
and assess your commitment to how much you can contribute to those goals. Like what I've mentioned before, balancing doesn't have to mean that everything is equal. So, for
Oh.
example, if you're preparing for your comps now,
Mhm.
you probably can't commit to.
Mhm.
You have to give something up.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, like what I've said, balancing doesn't have to mean that everything is equal.
every time.
Yes.
Mhm.
So assess your goals, and assess how much you can commit
Mhm.
to them. And the third one is consistency. Consistency and marginal gains. We have this concept in cycling called marginal gains, where the smallest gain that you have is still a gain. It doesn't have to be a big gain. It can be a small gain, such as a reduction in weight of your bike,
Okay.
or a cycling jersey that fits better so that it doesn't have to flap in the wind.
Mhm. Mhm.
So small gains are better than no gains at all.
Okay.
And small gains sometimes are even better than one-time big gains.
Okay.
Marginal gains.
That's why it's called marginal gains. Oh, that's a really good concept, and that's what you aim for, right? The marginal gains
Yes.
gains, is that right?
You collect marginal gains over time, and
Eventually, it becomes like
it's
a
a big gain.
Yeah, that's true, and that also helps us not to beat ourselves up.
That's true,
Oh,
yeah.
I have not reached.
So it also helps you, you know,
manage self expectations.
That's true. Yeah, that's one thing. So if you don't reach a goal, you don't get too sad over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the goals are the closer they are, the easier they are to reach.
Yeah, that's like a form of breaking them down
Yes,
in such a way that it's attainable and achievable just to everyone, right?
that's true.
Yeah. And what do you think, since we've mentioned, social norms, comparing yourself to other people's progress? Do you think there's a healthy extent to that?
That's an
Or
interesting point.
do you discourage it? Like, just your thoughts. Yeah. Because, okay, to be honest, that question is coming from me, that I know it is unhealthy. In general, it's never good to, compare yourself, because that leads to jealousy and all that. But to be honest, it's also kind of inevitable to, see and notice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to hold myself back into discussing individual differences and motivation.
Oh, okay. But maybe just a sneak peek.
I think
Mm-hmm.
I think there are individual differences
Okay.
as with regards to social comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a study on social comparisons on
Mhm.
students a few years ago,
Mhm.
and I noticed that or the results were that students who compare themselves more tend to perform lower. But that's just one part of the of the literature.
Academic. Yeah.
That's just one part of the literature. It's it doesn't
represent the other
doesn't
areas.
represent everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But I think there are individual differences. For example, like you said, would you perform better if you're comparing yourself to another? Some people would probably be more comfortable just looking at their comparing themselves against themselves. So I think there are differences. There are individual differences. This is a field in the science of motivation that we probably don't have time to talk about now. But one thing that we probably should know is that there are differences, individual differences to that.
Yeah. And again, it boils down to see like which one also works for you individually. Coming back to those 3 points. All right. Yeah, we've talked a lot of things. I mean, I'm happy how we're able to actually cover, the different areas somehow. But yeah, if there's one thing that you would like to leave our listeners from this episode, feel free to address them.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay healthy. We understand that here at IS, but sometimes it's hard, and I think it's normal for it to be hard. If it's hard if you have a hard time staying healthy, it's not something that we should be too down about, but it's something that we can probably work our way around. Yeah. So again, everyone has to start somewhere, and consistency, marginal gains.
Thank you so much, Kuya RJ. I hope it's all right that I call you by that.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this conversation. And in fact, I just remembered that this topic is aligned with the chapel series that we're going through. We've actually started just last Monday, where we talked about also the same, maintaining a good lifestyle. So I hope our student body is encouraged to start wherever that may be. That's different. Yours is different from mine, and his as well. So I hope we are encouraged to start somewhere at some point. And yeah, thank you once again for tuning in, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye. Thank you.